The operating room fell into silence. The flat line on the monitor mercilessly beeped. The heart had stopped. 34-year-old Dr. Michael Peterson raised his hands in the air, drenched in sweat. "We lost her," he said helplessly. Time of death 23:47. On the operating table lay 8-year-old Emma Collins. Severely injured in a traffic accident, the internal bleeding couldn't be stopped. After 2 hours of struggle, the young surgical team had given up. Everyone hung their heads, accepting defeat. At that moment, 66-year-old nurse Sarah Mitchell, who had been standing quietly in the corner of the operating room, slowly began putting on surgical gloves. Her gray hair hidden under a surgical cap, this humble woman who had worked at the hospital for 30 years walked determinedly toward the operating table. "I'm continuing," she said, her voice calm but decisive. Dr. Peterson turned in shock. "Sarah, what are you saying? The patient is dead." "Not yet," Sarah said, placing her hand on the little girl's chest. "Her heart stopped 3 minutes ago. There's still a chance." The young doctor couldn't believe it. "You're a nurse, Sarah. Not a surgeon. This operation is impossible, we couldn't even do it." But Sarah's hands were already in motion. As she took the scalpel, a secret that had been hidden for 25 years sparkled in her eyes. These hands hadn't just done nursing work. These hands had saved thousands of lives on battlefields, while bombs exploded and bullets whistled by. The truth she had hidden for 30 years would come to light that night. If you love hidden heroism stories like this one, please don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss these special stories. Comment below which professional groups you'd like to hear secret hero stories about. We'll create special stories for each of you. Sarah Mitchell was a quiet, modest woman, 66 years old, who had been nursing at St. Mary's Hospital for 30 years. She followed the same routine every day: arrive at work at 7 a.m., make rounds in patient rooms, distribute medications, help young doctors. Patients loved her, colleagues respected her. But nobody knew her real past. 30 years ago, Sarah Mitchell was a military surgeon who worked in the world's most dangerous places. Dr. Sarah Elena Rodriguez. She had served in countless war zones from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Bosnia to Somalia. In tent hospitals where bombs exploded, in field operating rooms where bullets whistled, she had saved thousands of lives. But one night everything changed. During an attack on a base in Kabul, Sarah's fiancé and surgical partner Dr. James Mitchell was killed. That night, Sarah decided to leave medicine. After returning to America, she took James's surname, became Sarah Mitchell, and completely changed her identity. Now she just wanted to be a nurse. Trying to forget the past. That evening, Sarah was on the night shift. At 9:30 p.m., an ambulance arrived at the hospital with sirens blaring. Inside was 8-year-old Emma Collins. She had been severely injured when a drunk driver hit their car while returning home with her family. Her parents had died at the scene. In the emergency room, Dr. Michael Peterson and his team immediately intervened. But her condition was very serious: internal bleeding, liver laceration, spleen damage. She was taken to the operating room. Sarah was preparing for surgery with the other nurses. But the moment she saw the child, her heart broke. 8-year-old Emma reminded her of her own younger sister Maria. Maria had also died in a traffic accident at the same age, 20 years ago. The surgery began. Dr. Peterson was a good surgeon, but still young. He had 2 years of experience. Sarah stood beside him quietly, handing him the necessary instruments. But as the surgery progressed, she realized the seriousness of the situation. They couldn't stop the bleeding. Dr. Peterson was drenched in sweat. His assistant Dr. Lisa Chen was also panicking. "We can't close the liver laceration," Peterson shouted. "The bleeding is too fast." Sarah was getting tense inside. She had seen hundreds of cases like this. She knew the problem, and the solution too. But she couldn't speak. She wasn't a surgeon anymore. At 11:15 p.m., the situation got even worse. The girl's blood pressure was dropping, her pulse weakening. Dr. Peterson was making desperate attempts but couldn't succeed. "We need more blood," he shouted. Sarah brought blood units. But she knew this wouldn't be enough. The real problem was the surgical technique. Peterson wasn't using the right method. At 11:40 p.m., Emma's heart stopped. The monitor went to a flat line. The beeping sound filled the operating room. Dr. Peterson raised his hands. "We lost her. Time of death 23:47. Sarah's heart shattered. This child wouldn't die. Shouldn't die. 30 years ago she couldn't save Maria, but she could save Emma. She quietly began putting on surgical gloves. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Dr. Chen asked. "I'm continuing," Sarah said as she approached the operating table. Dr. Peterson was surprised. "Sarah, what are you saying? The patient is dead." "Not yet," Sarah said, placing her hand on Emma's chest. "Her heart stopped 3 minutes ago. There's still a chance." "You're a nurse, Sarah. Not a surgeon. This operation is impossible, we couldn't even do it." Sarah didn't answer. She took the scalpel and widened the incision in Emma's abdomen. Her movements were precise and determined. Even after 30 years, her hands remembered everything. "Sarah, stop. This is illegal," Dr. Peterson shouted. But Sarah was unstoppable. She found the liver laceration. She saw the main vessel Peterson had missed. That was the problem. She quickly ligated that vessel. Everyone in the operating room watched frozen. Sarah's movements were so professional, it was as if she had been doing this for years. 10 minutes later the bleeding stopped. Sarah started cardiac massage. "Defibrillator," she shouted. Dr. Chen brought the defibrillator in shock but obediently. Sarah placed the electrode pads on Emma's chest. "Charge. Everyone stand back." First shock. Nothing happened on the monitor. "Charge again." Second shock. Still nothing. Sarah continued cardiac massage. "Adrenaline 1 milligram," she shouted. Dr. Peterson prepared the medication with robotic movements. Sarah injected it. Third shock. This time a weak signal appeared on the monitor. Then a stronger pulse. Emma's heart had started beating again. Everyone in the operating room held their breath. Sarah continued. She repaired the spleen damage, cleaned the blood clots inside the abdomen, controlled all bleeding. Her hands were like magic. Every movement was perfect. 2 hours later the surgery was completed. Emma's vital signs had stabilized. As Sarah was removing her gloves, Dr. Peterson stopped her. "Sarah, how did you do this?" Sarah took a deep breath. It was time to tell the truth she had hidden for 30 years. "I used to be a surgeon. Military surgeon. I worked on battlefields for 25 years. Everyone in the operating room was shocked. "But why did you never say anything?" Dr. Chen asked. Sarah looked at Emma's peaceful face. "I wanted to leave my past behind. But tonight, I couldn't bear to lose this child." Dr. Peterson approached. "Are you Dr. Sarah Rodriguez? The legendary surgeon from Afghanistan? We took classes about you in medical school." Sarah nodded. "Not anymore. I'm just Sarah Mitchell now. A nurse. But what you did, this is a miracle. You saved this child." The next morning, hospital director Dr. Williams called Sarah to his office. Sarah thought she was going to be fired. "Sarah, first let me say something. What you did last night was against the rules." Sarah hung her head. I know, doctor. I can write my resignation letter. Wait a minute. Let me finish. It was against the rules, but it was the most incredible surgery I've seen in this hospital. You saved that child's life. Dar. Williams pulled out an envelope from his desk. This is an offer for you. If you want, you can return to our surgical department as Assistant Chief of Surgery. Your license is still valid. You just need to pass a few exams. Sarah was surprised. I'm not sure. It's been a long time. Sarah, we saw last night that you haven't lost anything. Talent doesn't disappear, it just sleeps. Your talent is awake. That afternoon Sarah visited Emma's room. The little girl had woken up and was asking about her parents. Sarah had to tell her the truth. They're in heaven now, she said softly. But you're a strong girl. And I'm here with you. Emma held Sarah's hand with tears. You saved me, didn't you? Sarah smiled. No, sweetie. You saved yourself. I just helped. 2 weeks later Sarah returned to the surgical department as Assistant Chief of Surgery. Her first operation was with young doctors Dr. Peterson and Dr. Chen. The patient was a complex stomach surgery. Sarah taught by showing the young surgeons the correct techniques. Be careful here, she told Dr. Peterson. This vessel is very close. Cut like this. Peterson performed a perfect surgery under Sarah's guidance. When the surgery was over, Dr. Chen approached Sarah. Doctor, I want to ask you something. Why did you hide who you were for so long? Sarah thought. Sometimes when we experience pain, we punish ourselves. I did that too. But that night when I saw Emma, I realized that running from the past isn't the solution. You need to embrace it and use it for good. 6 months later Sarah was teaching young medical students. A student asked, Doctor, what do you think is the most important quality of a surgeon? Sarah smiled. Technical knowledge is important. But what's really important is seeing a human being in every patient. There's a story in every surgery. And our job is to make sure those stories end happily. After class, Sarah went to visit Emma. The girl was now 9 years old and had completely recovered. Sarah was raising her as an adopted daughter. Sarah, Mom, when I grow up I'm going to be a doctor too, Emma said. Why? Sarah asked. Because you gave me life. I want to give life to others too. Sarah hugged Emma. This was why she practiced medicine. This was why she had embraced her past. That night, sitting alone at home, Sarah was looking at her old photographs. She held Dr. James Mitchell's photograph in her hands. Did you see, James? She whispered. I finally came home. Emma called from her room, Sarah, Mom, are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. Very fine. Sarah put the photograph back. The past no longer frightened her. Because the past was what made her who she was today. Sarah, who was both surgeon and mother, both strong and compassionate. The most important lesson we learn from this story is this. Instead of trying to run from our past, we should use it to shape our future. Sarah's hands could still save lives after 30 years. Because real talent never disappears. And sometimes, in the moments when we feel most worthless, it turns out we're actually most valuable. That night Sarah Mitchell didn't just save Emma's life. She saved her own life too. Every person carries a hidden hero inside. Sometimes that hero sleeps, but when the right moment comes, it awakens and creates miracles. Sarah's story is a reminder of that hidden hero inside all of us. 3 months after Emma's surgery, Sarah received an unexpected visit. Dr. Williams knocked on her office door with a serious expression. Sarah, I have news. The medical board reviewed your case from that night. Sarah's heart skipped. She thought they were going to revoke her license. They want to give you the Humanitarian Service Award. What you did that night. It's going to be taught in medical schools as a case study in surgical excellence under pressure. Sarah was speechless. There's more, Dr. Williams continued. The Military Medical Corps wants you to consult on their new trauma protocols. Your techniques from the battlefield could save more lives. I don't know if I'm ready for that level of exposure, Sarah said quietly. Sarah, you've been hiding your light under a bushel for 30 years. It's time to let it shine. That evening, Sarah sat in her garden with Emma, watching the sunset. The little girl was doing her homework, occasionally looking up at Sarah with adoring eyes. Sarah, Mom, my teacher wants to know what you do at the hospital. I'm a doctor, sweetie. I help sick people get better. Were you always a doctor? Sarah paused, thinking about how to explain 30 years of hidden identity to a 9-year-old. I was a doctor before, then I stopped being one for a while, and now I'm a doctor again. Why did you stop? Because sometimes, when sad things happen, we forget how special we are. But then something reminds us. Emma nodded solemnly. Like when you saved me? Exactly like that. 6 months later, Sarah was invited to speak at the International Conference on Emergency Surgery. Standing before 500 surgeons from around the world, she shared her story. For 30 years, I convinced myself that my past was something to be ashamed of. I thought my pain disqualified me from helping others. But that night in the operating room, I learned that our greatest wounds often become our greatest strengths. The audience was transfixed. Every surgeon in this room has moments of doubt, moments where they question their abilities. I want you to remember this: your experience, even your failures, are not obstacles to greatness. They are the foundation of wisdom. After her speech, a young female surgeon approached her. Dr. Mitchell, I'm Dr. Maria Santos from Guatemala. I served as a field surgeon in our civil conflict. When I came back, I couldn't operate anymore. PTSD, they said. I've been working as a clinic physician for 5 years now. Sarah saw herself in the young woman's eyes. What you said tonight, it made me realize I've been running from who I am, not toward who I could be. Would you like to come work with our trauma team? Sarah offered. We need someone who understands battlefield medicine. Dr. Santos nodded, tears in her eyes. A year later, Sarah's trauma unit had become renowned. They had the highest survival rate in the country. But more importantly, it had become a place where wounded healers found their way back to themselves. Emma, now 10, often visited the hospital after school. She would sit in Sarah's office, doing homework while her adoptive mother saved lives. One day, Emma looked up from her math problems and asked, Sarah, Mom, do you think my real parents would be proud of who I'm becoming? Sarah knelt beside Emma's chair. Sweetheart, they sent you an angel that night, me, to make sure you grew up to be amazing. Of course they're proud. But you're not an angel, Emma said matter-of-factly. You're just a person who remembered how to use her superpowers. Sarah laughed. Out of the mouths of babes. That evening, as Sarah tucked Emma into bed, she realized how profoundly her life had changed. The scared, guilt-ridden woman who had hidden in plain sight for 30 years was gone. In her place stood someone who had integrated her past and present into a powerful force for healing. Sarah, Mom. Yes, baby. When I'm a doctor like you, will I have superpowers too? Sarah kissed Emma's forehead. You already do, sweetheart. We all do. We just have to remember how to use them. As Sarah turned off the light and closed Emma's door, she reflected on the journey that had brought them both here. A tragic accident had created 2 orphans, one literal, one emotional. But from that tragedy had emerged something beautiful, a family bound not by blood, but by the shared understanding that our greatest gifts often emerge from our deepest wounds. The next morning, Sarah stood in the hospital corridor, watching young doctors make their rounds. Dr. Peterson approached, now confident and skilled after a year under her mentorship. "Dr. Mitchell, we have a complex trauma coming in. Multiple car accident. Are you ready?" Sarah smiled, feeling the familiar surge of purpose. "Always." As the trauma team assembled, Sarah caught sight of her reflection in the hallway window. Gray hair, weathered hands, laugh lines around her eyes. She looked like what she was, a woman who had lived, suffered, and found her way back to herself. The ambulance sirens grew closer. Another chance to save a life. Another opportunity to prove that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. Sarah Mitchell, once Dr. Sarah Elena Rodriguez, once a broken woman hiding from her past, now a healer who had learned to embrace every part of her journey, walked toward the emergency bay. Behind her, on the wall, hung a plaque that read, "In memory of all who were lost, in honor of all who return." She had finally come home.